Dear reader, we are in a time of trying to figure things out because people in power are not going to help you, but instead are actively working against you and your well-being. Every day feels like an out-and-out attack on good sense and civility. So my friend Donnie was talking about homophobia in the Godzilla community, and I just wanted to touch on that briefly about how is being in a subversive act because it feels like just being in a space sometimes by enjoying things and being who one is and showing up that makes other people aggressive towards you. And I know I experienced that in the David Lynch fandom, that there were a lot of people, aggressive men specifically, who wanted to put me in my place as a femme presenting non-binary person, who wanted to hold me down and experience life as a submissive woman to their violence. I was one of the more unfortunate aspects of the David Lynch fandom, that one couldn't criticize the films too much because certain men would take it personally and be like, well, you just don't understand art. It's not talking about the permissive parts of his films because they represent what they represent to women, you know, violence and things like that. It's like, oh, you just don't understand. You just don't understand that it's art. It feels like that sometimes in communities, that there's a strong masculine presence, such as the Godzilla community, where a lot of guys gather. A traditionally male hobby becomes an attack space for marginalized communities. It's always a certain type of man, too. You can tell it's where this takes place. I think that's why writing and reading become a subversive act within fandom communities, and even communities like the hashtag booktube, booksky, booktalk community. When one writes things like fan fiction written by LGBTQ plus authors, by Black authors, by disabled and other marginalized authors, or think pieces within fandom communities about the works one means to them and how they interpret the works, how they dissect the works, their perspectives, becomes a subversive act because ultimately it will be attacked by the majority consensus, and those themes are held by those held agreed upon opinions on what it means. Just because an opinion on a piece of artwork, movie, book, etc. is popular doesn't mean it's the only interpretation of the work, nor should it be. The way we see a book is often evolving and changing. The way we see a movie is often changing, and it changes from person to person. Not every person who sees a movie or a book or an artwork piece is going to be the same as the next person, and that's the great part about perspective. Every opinion, I think, every perspective on a piece adds to the piece. It adds value to a piece and especially by adding marginalized views on a piece, adds value to the piece by subverting the general consensus, by changing the way the piece is seen. There are a lot of people who hate this when a marginalized community doesn't like a piece, when it's problematic because it yucks their yum experience of something that they enjoy. They don't understand that they have to reckon with all aspects of their work, even problematic aspects of it, which is where the Harry Potter and Twilight community currently are sitting with more than a dozen years in their fandom. To acknowledge those things is to say, I understand and see all parts of this, the problems and troubles, as well as the good things, and it adds to my understanding of the work that there are pros and cons to this work, and has grown into such a more nuanced piece of fiction based on the history that has gathered over time and the relevance that we have gained as community. Anyway, that's why one should allow for these groups into fandoms and not push them out, and be more accepting as they shine lights onto the darkness in community. And as David Lynch said, as looking straight into the camera, fix your hearts or die. Anyway, that's all I have for you. Sincerely, Ari. Thanks to my Patreon subscribers, Lyndon and Donnie. Thank you for subscribing. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, link is in the description. You get early access to the videos, and I put bonus content on my Patreon. So do subscribe to my Patreon if you want bonus content and early access content, and also stuff to polls. So do check that out. Um, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll get access to my videos on there regardless. But you can become a free member and get access on my Patreon as well. I put stuff on my Patreon regardless of free content. I put free content on my Patreon. So, thank you for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you on the next one. Bye bye.